Update 2. My parents dumped me on the highway. My father pushed me out of the car and said, "Learn how to survive on your own." Then he threw me $20 and said, "You have enough for a night in a motel." "Mom, Dad," I cried, but they left. 22 years later, when they saw me in a fancy limo, they were numb. My parents reported me missing, but she was ready for them. "Let them try to take you back," she muttered as we left the courthouse. Over my dead body. With her help, I finished school, went to college, and built a life far away from the people who had left me to rot. I became someone they never expected, someone successful. And I never looked back. Until 25 years later, when they came knocking on my door. I barely recognized them when they showed up at my office. Lincoln and Amara stood in the lobby, their faces tight with forced smiles. Age had softened their once commanding presence, gray streaked my father's hair, and my mother's once proud posture had a slight stoop. But their eyes still held that cold calculation. "Eric," my mother breathed, her voice syrupy sweet. "It's been too long." I leaned against my desk, arms crossed. "Not long enough." A flicker of annoyance passed over my father's face, but he quickly masked it. "We're here because we need your help," he said. I said nothing. "Let them squirm. We've had some financial trouble," my mother continued, pressing a hand to her chest as if the weight of their misfortune was too much to bear. "The bank is taking our house. We could lose everything." A humorless chuckle escaped me. "Everything? You mean the house you raised me in? The one you abandoned me from?" "Eric," my father said sharply. "You wouldn't be where you are today without us. We taught you resilience. That success of yours, you owe it to us." I pushed off the desk and stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You dumped your child in a highway motel and never looked back. You didn't raise me, you discarded me. And now, after 25 years, you think you can waltz in here and demand a payout." My mother's expression darkened. "We're still your parents." "No," I said, voice cold. "You're strangers." My father's mask finally cracked. "You selfish little." I pulled out my phone. "Say one more word, and I'll have security escort you out." My mother exhaled shakily, switching tactics. "Please, Eric, we have nowhere else to go." I stared at them for a long moment. Then, with slow precision, I reached for my checkbook. They watched hungrily as I tore a slip from the pad. Then I ripped it in half. "Here's what you get." I let the torn pieces flutter to the floor. Their gasps filled the silence as I pressed the intercom. "Security, escort these people out." The last thing I saw before the doors closed was their stunned, furious faces. They had come for money. Instead, they left with nothing. And soon, I'd make sure they lost even more. I sat in my office, scrolling through the legal documents on my screen. The purchase was finalized. My parents' former home was now mine. I bought the house the moment the bank listed it for foreclosure. The same house where I had shivered through sleepless nights, endured starvation, and learned that love was just another word for control. It was mine now. And I had no intention of saving it. It wasn't about money, it was about justice. The same walls that had echoed with their cold-hearted lessons would soon crumble before the world's eyes. I had prepared everything meticulously. I compiled every document, every recorded conversation, and every witness statement detailing the torment they put me through, starving me, abandoning me, forcing me to fend for myself like a stray dog. I wrote down every swear word, every insult, every cruel word they uttered when they met in my office. Then, I sent it all in a single email to every relative who had ever dismissed my suffering. The subject line was simple: the truth about Lincoln and Amara. Within hours, my inbox flooded, shocked responses, condemnations, disgust. No one was on their side now. The final blow came when a well-known celebrity blogger picked up the story. Soon, headlines spread like wildfire: self-made tech CEO destroys his abusive parents' legacy. News outlets swarmed, eager to capture the spectacle. And the demolition, that would be public. The office door burst open. Lincoln and Amara have once again invaded my office, their faces twisted with rage. "You planned this," my father growled. "You set us up." I met his glare with icy calm. "No, you did. The day you left me in that motel, you wrote the ending to your own story." My mother's voice trembled. We made mistakes, but this. Destroying our home in front of the whole world." I turned my monitor to face them. The live feed from the demolition site showed a crowd gathered, journalists, bloggers, distant relatives who once turned a blind eye. The cameras zoomed in on the wrecking ball, poised for its first devastating strike. Their panic was instant. "Stop it," my mother shrieked. "You have to stop it." "No, I don't." My voice was steady, unshaken. "You had your chance to make amends. Instead, you came here demanding more." I pressed a button on my keyboard. Outside, the machinery roared to life. Lincoln turned away from the screen, his breath ragged. "You're heartless," he whispered. "No," I said, "I just learned from the best." A thunderous crash rang through the speakers as the wrecking ball struck. The house, their house, collapsed in a cloud of dust and broken memories. The cameras caught it all. The world had seen the truth. And I walked away, leaving them to face what they had built, nothing. This is where our story comes to end.